You waited, but the children didn't come, did they? They promised they'd be back today. We even crossed pinkies. Promises are futile, dearest child, dearest heart. But I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, people are selfish creatures. They will always put their own well-being before others. No one does anything selflessly. To put your trust in someone is weakness, Lucid, even those that make promises will only keep them if it benefits them, and you, my sweet, were obviously not beneficial to those children. So they didn't like playing with me? No, they did not. Come here, darling. You do not need those other children. The two of us can play together as we always do. I can always trust you, Mother. Of course, my love. My head feels foggy. Maybe it was because it took me forever to fall asleep yesterday. And then, to make things worse, I ended up having that dream. Mother, you are the only one I can trust. Right? I slowly slide out of my bed and make my way over to my dresser. The little bag is still where I left it last night. I opened it up and let the little white chocolate lily fall into my hand. Is he really trying to help me? I remember his face yesterday and his bright smiles as he presented this to me. I slowly run my fingers across the delicate white petals. He couldn't have known lilies were my favorite flower. There is no reason to be sentimental about something like this. It's just silly. I am about to put the flower back into the bag, but I stop. Eyeing it once before. Slowly, I bring it to my lips and bite off a small petal. It is actually pretty good. I stuff the little flower back into the bag and make my way downstairs. The merchant is not busy, but this early in the morning, but everyone is starting on their chores. At least I assume as much when I see Anise and then Waltz was helping her stack things. Then I hear rising voices and realize that not all is calm. At least I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not. You say you're not pretending when you go around flirting with all of the female patrons day in and day out. You cannot seriously mean all of the drivel you spout. Karma and Rumpel stand on opposite sides of a table, staring each other down. A teacup filled with what looks to be cool tea sits close to Karma, abandoned. Flirting with a lady is not a crime. One day your flirting is going to get you into even more trouble than it already has. I've never had a lady said I mistreated her, not once. Oh, I'm sure many could attest to being more than slightly annoyed. You're only jealous that I can speak to ladies without a disguise, aren't you? Karma slams his hand down on the table, shaking it. The tavern grows quiet. Waltz looks over, his eyebrows furrowed with worry. If you so much as make one more comment about my curse, then stop making comments about how I speak. The two continued to glare at each other. It almost looks as if Karma might circle the table and slap him, but the fight freezes as Tyrion strides up to the two men. It's too early for the two of you to already be at each other's throats. But he started it. All I did was make a comment. He was the one that picked a fight. There you go again, twisting words. Tyrion stomps on the ground. The two men once again turn to look at her. It's my job to break up unnecessary fights, and I will do it. If you two must continue fighting, go do it somewhere else, like the forest, where you can't disturb anyone. Both men turn away from each other, obviously agitated. Rumpel's expression is cloudy as he makes his way over to the bar to begin helping set the tables. Tyrion notices me watching. She waves at me with a terse smile on her face. Sorry you had to wake up to that, princess. I shrug as I make my way over to Mr. Broom. It's like watching up to two children arguing. Agreed, wholeheartedly. Tyrion sighs before looking at me thoughtfully. Maybe you could have a word with Rumpel later. I have no idea how their argument even started, but maybe you can get to the bottom of it. I am not a babysitter. But I'd heard the two of you were partners. Anyway, hopefully this doesn't happen again. Good luck with your work today, princess. Tyrion walks off. Vigilant as always, I notice Garland looking at her from the bar, a slight frown on his face. I start working around the tavern, starting first and with the cleaning and then with the stacking. Dolora makes snide remarks about my slowness as I work, and I try my best to ignore her while occasionally throwing her insults back at her. It is as if she has nothing better to do. The door to the tavern opens and Parfait steps inside with a bright smile. She looks more energetic than usual. I wonder if this is because of Rumpel's medicine suggestions. Later, I manage to catch Rumpel when the two of us are both on a break. He looks pleased to see me until I mention Karma. Why were the two of you fighting earlier? What a sad day it is that the princess talks about another man to my face. Just answer me. I was getting ready for the events of today, as always, speaking to the lovely woman who filled in and out of this place, when the beast appeared behind me. Even his insults are dramatic. Your flirting is just distracting me, he proclaimed. Well, your flirting is annoying. But all I'm doing is complimenting women. I'm not impeding anyone's work. I thought that the only reason he was calling me out on such a thing was because he was actually jealous. You should have seen his scowl. And here we go. So I politely told him to mind his business, but he was reckless. And when he continued to insult my demeanor, well, I had to say something back, but I wasn't the one to start the fight. I swear they both really do sound like children. No doubt Karma would be blaming Rumpel. Princess, You don't really think I'm so confrontational, do you? I think karma is far more confrontational than Rumpel, but it does not help that Rumpel always snaps back at him. The two of you are both at fault. But Princess, in the end, you were still having a childish argument. I think that Rumpel might try to protest again, and am surprised when he shrugs his shoulders and sighs. Yes, it was childish, because that man is a child. I roll my eyes. Ah, your irritated scowl chills my heart, Princess. I feel a tinge of excitement. I am leaving now. There is really no point in having this conversation. It is a problem between Karma and Rumpel. They aren't children. They can figure this out on their own. Oh, Princess of my heart, why must you depart so early? I ignore Rumpel and leave him standing where he is as I return to my shift a little early. Honestly, I would much rather focus on work than Rumpel. He can be just as tiring, if not more. Though, after what happened last night, I do not think he is as terrible as I thought. The days go on, and Rumpel and I speak only briefly during our breaks. Every day I eat another piece of the lily until only one is remaining. One afternoon, just before my break, Rumpel approaches me with a mischievous smile on his face. My lovely princess, how are you today? What do you want? Your cold shoulder is enticing. I have one more table to serve. Do not bother me. But princess, I've decided I know exactly how to teach you to be good. All of your other lessons have been useless so far. Please just trust me. To put my trust in someone is weakness. I'm going to teach you how to flirt. What? The first step to flirting is eye contact, princess. Wait, but why are you... Rumpel points at my customer, a young man sitting right beside the window. The second is to smile. Smile, princess, because I'm sure you look even more stunning when you do. Then you start a conversation with him. Body language is important. There are certain signals that key men into the fact that a woman is interested in them. I think playing with your hair is one. A gentle tap on the shoulder is another. I should have expected Rumpel to spout this sort of nonsense. Princess, the customer's been waiting for a while now. Is something wrong? I noticed the customer looking at me expectantly. He is just some man, a usual customer that I actually see often. Oh, and princess, don't forget the compliments. Make them as delicate and illustrative as you can. I move away from Rumpel before he can muddle my thoughts any further. Already my feet feel like lead. I find myself staring at the man for far too long. The way he stares back at me, his expression so unreadable, suddenly making me feel more uncomfortable. Do I really have to do what Rumpel says? I stop in front of the man and set down his tray, my eyes still on his. I do not have to follow Rumpel's advice, but for some reason my lips quirk. The smile on my lips, though, lasts all of a half second. Are you okay? I can feel Rumpel smiling at my back. this were anyone else but him, I would think it was some kind of prank. But considering this is the way Rumpel acts all the time, maybe he's really trying to help me. I tried to recall how he flirted with his customers before. I could not help but notice you were alone, sir. I'm always alone. My heart is thumping far too loudly in my chest. What kind of things does Rumpel usually say? Madam, you are the most beautiful thief I have ever met, for it is you who has stolen my heart and stolen my gaze. Your eyes are more captivating than the stars, my sweet. If I could, I would stare into them forever and lose myself in their majesty. You remind me of a rose with thorns, but the thorns are what makes the rose so alluring. All he does is spout complimentary gibberish. I will try to do the same. How is it that you would always be alone when you have such lovely eyes? The customer stares at me, baffled. I force myself to continue. Your eyes remind me of the leaves in fall as they flutter beneath the bright gaze of the sun, and I stop. The words, nothing more than a shallow lie, make me feel strangely hollow. The man is just staring at me, but he looks uncomfortable still. I do not think he is anywhere near as uncomfortable as I am. Ma'am, perhaps you would. My voice trails off. I bite my lip so hard I can taste something metallic. The man's expression is a mixture of awe and perplexity. I immediately turn away from him and walk off. My whole face is hot, and I can feel anger boiling deep down inside of me. Ah, princess, leave me alone. Princess, we're not done. I do not care. I ignore everyone's gazes as I make my way as quickly as I possible can up the stairs and to my room. There, I collapse on my bed and lay there with my arms outstretched. Why would I have ever even thought of taking Rumpel's advice? Hours go by, and eventually I realize that it is time to help Anis with the night chores. Now I am helping her restock some of the bottles that Waltz and Karma brought back from town. I hope Anis does not mention what happened earlier today. I slip out of bed and head down to the main area of the tavern. The room is mostly quiet by the time I go downstairs. Parfit and Delora are talking to each other at the table. Karma passes me by as I walk downstairs. He looks exhausted and oddly frustrated. I make my way over to Anis, who is already putting bottles on the shelves. Oh, princess, are you okay now? I am fine now. What do you need me to do? Anis explains how restocking works. She shows me the labels on the shelves and explains that the empty spots are where the new bottles go. It is not a hard job, and one I can easily do without thinking too hard. For a while, the only sound that can be heard in the margin are the bottles clicking against each other. Underneath that is the murmuring between Parfit and Delora. I have no idea what they are talking about, but they look serious. So it must be something important. Princess, can I ask what life was like at the palace? Right. She cannot remember working at the palace before. I don't mean to pry. I was just trying to make conversation. I would rather not. Oh, okay. Eventually, Parfit and Delora stand from their seats and move to another room to continue their conversation. Anise breaks the silence again. The tavern is nice when it's quiet like this, isn't it? You can hear the sounds outside if you open a window. My hands move stiffly, placing bottles on the shelves by label. All I want to do is get the work done and then return to my room. It was like this at the old place that I used to work. I was hired by a rich family to be their maid. Their mansion was a beautiful place. You could hear the crickets if you were by the windows on the bottom floor. It seems like her memory has been twisted by my curse, so she cannot remember working at the palace. All she remembers is working for a rich family. It was a nice place, Princess. There was a girl close to my age that had a radiant smile. Radiant smile. She must be talking about Emmeline. The head of the mansion is a really kind man, and she grows suddenly quiet, a look of confusion coming to her face. She pauses and then shakes her head. I can't seem to remember everyone that was there, but I'm pretty sure they were all good people. At least, I'd like to think so. I was just a bad maid. She was. Because of her, Delora's dress was torn. I was too ashamed to tell one of the mistress that I couldn't save her doll. Save her doll? Anise looks down, her smile wistful. I was fired on my first day because I couldn't save one of the mistress' dolls. I was the one cleaning her shelves that day, and when I went in, I saw a crowd had come in through the open window and was pecking at one of the dolls. I shooed it away, but I was too late. The doll had a little rip in its dress, and I was fired for not doing my job properly. So it wasn't Anise who ripped Delora's dress, but a bird? Is this why Delora insisted Anise deserves an apology? What happened after you were fired? Lady Parfit found me on the streets. I couldn't go back to my aunt's house, not after what happened. She never liked me anyway. Anise's face clouds briefly with sorrow, but the expression is short-lived. I can never forget the day I met Lady Parfit. I told her I would be able to help her and anyone else that got sick. That I can even do all the cooking since I've been making meals for my father since I was a young girl. I begged her to take me in, and she did. I owe Lady Parfit a lot. Why didn't you go back to your father after you were fired? My father passed away a while ago. My mother died giving birth to me. My father was an herbalist, and he taught me a lot while he was still with me. So before Rumpel came in, I helped Lady Parfit with herbal remedies. So you have no one. That's what I thought. But now I have everyone here. The merchant is my family now. Family. Princess, we're all happy to have you here too. You really help out around the merchant, and I can tell Rumpel's happy to have you as a partner. The memory of what happened today slowly seeps back into my mind. I cannot help the irritation bubbling up inside of me. I know he's a little overwhelming, but I'm pretty sure Rumpel's really trying to help you, just like he's helping Lady Parfait. It is not the same thing at all. The two of us continue working until Anis makes another wistful comment. The place I worked before this, it felt like there was warmth in the gigantic home, but it was stiffed. That place isn't warm at all. I speak the words without even meaning to. Anis looks up at me curiously. The king suddenly started speaking to me when mother died, but it was never enough. Before that, he was cold and distant, and even now, he favors his new wife and children over me. There were people, but they all wore fake smiles, and my father, he was the worst of all. I may as well have never existed to him. Princess, I'm sorry. For what? You're talking about the palace, right? The king always seemed so nice. He put his kingdom before his children. Anis fidgets nervously. I'm sorry. Apologies are not going to change the past. Sometimes apologizing seems like all we can do when we can't change something that's already happened. I think about Anis who tried to save my doll and the way I fired her that day. Rumpel told me once that all I had to do was listen to people to sympathize with them. Could that also be true for finding out the truth? All I can do to make up for what I did to her is apologize to Anis. I'm sorry. Anis looks at me, clearly shocked. She stares for a few moments before I scowl at her. Staring is rude. Oh, I was just... Why are you apologizing to me, Princess? It is for something I did that you wouldn't remember. That I wouldn't remember? You should tell me. I promise I wouldn't hold it against you. It is not important. Anis's eyes are suddenly downcast, and no matter the attempt, her smile isn't as bright as it once was. I quickly finish stacking the bottles on the shelves. I am done. Anis turns to look at me with an unusually tired expression on her face. Thank you for listening to me, Princess, and for telling me a little bit about yourself too. I feel like I might have said too much. I do not respond to Anis, but instead choose to head out the front door. Anis asks where I am going, but I just ignore her. I think about heading to town, but then reconsider. I decided to head to the forest instead. I make my way to the forest clearing. In the dark, everything feels a lot more comfortable. Here, I do not have to pretend to listen to anyone, and I do not have to talk about myself. I settle down on a rock and stare up at the sky. I apologized, but Anis did not even understand my apology. And even now, I still cannot bring myself to trust those at the margin. I sigh and find myself speaking aloud. Maybe I am the Ice Princess. Ah, but have you seen the beautiful sculptures that can be made from Ice Princess? I turned to see Rumpel walking toward me, a broad grin on his face. Ice always sparkles in the sun. It glistens and stands so proudly where it's been sculpted. I stare at Rumpel blankly. He sighs and shakes his head. I'm sorry, that one was particularly bad, wasn't it? He sits down beside me and his grin falters a little bit. I have no white lilies to give you this time, my sweet princess, but I will offer anything else you would need for me to apologize for my advice earlier today. I can offer anything, my words, my body. I cut Rumpel off as I am not in the mood for his usual behavior. You are always like this. All of you ever do is flirt. Any meaningful things you try to say is lost in the flattery you're constantly give to people. It is shallow. You're right. What? I stare at him. Rumpel is still smiling, but it is not the same confident grin he wore earlier. Somewhere deep in my memories, I remember someone telling me off just like this. Many people enjoy flattery, princess, and a lot of people are receptive to flirting, but nothing can measure up to a genuine compliment. But I stand by what I said before, in that making a person happy is a good deed. Look, I'll show you. Rumpel shifts so that he's looking right at me, and I notice that his smile is gone. Lucid, of all the women I met, you are the most straightforward and honest. Many do not have the courage or the confidence to exhibit those qualities, and that's why I admire you, and why I will always take your words to heart, because I know you will always speak the truth. I look into Rumpel's eyes, which still have a gentle shimmer despite the darkness. For a few moments, his words float around in my head. No one has ever called me bluntness, honesty before, and no one has ever complimented me for it. Rumpel told me before that I deserve to be spoiled. Maybe it's because he sees the things I do in more positive light. My, you're struck speechless by that, aren't you? You look cute with your cheeks so rosy, my sweet princess. I glare at him, and Rumpel just laughs in response. I put a hand into my cheek, suddenly self-conscious. Rumpel smiles at me, but it is not the usual playful smile. Right now, he almost looks serious. Did he mean what he just said? Why did you have to be so dramatic when you gave me that compliment? I was dramatic? I cross my arms and Rumpel grins at me. I can't help it, princess. I am dramatic by nature. A compliment is, in some way, a performance. So you did not mean what you said? No, I did. I swear I did. I was trying to show you how making a person happy could be a good deed. Complimenting a person on appearance is easier than complimenting them on their demeanor. You have to know a person for that. I meant what I said, Princess, and I swear that wasn't just me trying to weave spectacular words together. Earlier, I bet you made a niece happy too. You were spying on our conversation? I would never. I just happened to be making my way down the stairs very slowly. You don't even know what I was apologizing for. No, but you thought you had to after you listened to her, didn't you? I listened far more than you do. Princess, you've shattered my heart so many times there are permanent cracks. But do not worry, the cracks in my heart allow even more of you to make your way into it. Rumpel awkwardly laughs when I remain silent. Anyway, there are different kinds of listening, Princess. Listening to sympathize is one kind. Trying to put yourself in someone's shoes, trying to understand them, that is one of those ways. Then there is the kind of listening that is shallow. One pretends to listen without ever letting the words into their heart. Words are fickle things. Mother always told me that people lie and that they would not say whatever benefited them. It is foolish to trust words. What if Anis had been lying to me? What would I put so much blind faith in people? Because more often than not, people are good, Princess. I let out an exasperated sigh. Sometimes I cannot tell if I am angry or confused by Rumpel. Ah, what a beautiful sound. It was as if the sweet wind itself was gently tickling my ear. I slide away from him and scowl. Your scowl is adorable too, and you have such delicate lips. Right. I am still convinced that his earlier compliment was just a lie. How can he say something genuine and then slide right back into this pitiful flattery? For a moment, silence falls, and I find to my surprise that it is not awkward being alone with Rumpel. Will you accept my apology for earlier? I promise I'll never try to get you to flirt with anyone ever again. Besides, if you flirted with another man and then grew fond of him, I would be devastated. That would never happen. You didn't let me finish. I was going to say that I would be devastated because that would mean that your heart belongs to someone else, and my heart belongs to no one. I will steal it. I will steal it like a thief in the night. That will also never happen. If not that, then I'll settle with making your smile. At least once, because I'm sure you would shine as brightly as sun if you smiled. You are unreasonably persistent. Love is a persistent endeavor, Princess. A man in love stops at nothing to win over the women that he adores. Then you must be in love with many women. I stand up. I would appreciate you just complimenting me when you mean it. But Princess, I mean every one of my compliments. I have no energy to chastise him right now, but at least I no longer have that anger inside from earlier. It's been a long day, and I am going to bed. Would you like company? I didn't mean good night, Rumpel. Good night, Princess Lucette. I make my way back to the tavern, feeling surprisingly light. Still, even if Rumpel's words might make me happier than I care to admit, he is not doing a very good job of helping me with my curse. I might have to do this on my own after all.